Good afternoon to one and all. I, Dr. Asabri Sawant from Team Voice of Healthcare, welcome you all to the Knowledge Leadership Live event on empowering healthcare leadership with 21st century skills, insights, and approaches. This event is organized by Voice of Healthcare and is in association with Nursi Munji Institute of Management Studies. For this session, we have some very eminent panelists here with us today. Let me start by welcoming Mr. Rupak Barua, who is the Director and Group CEO of AMRI Hospitals Limited. Welcome. I next welcome Mr. Rajiv Nath, who is the Forum Coordinator of AMID and Managing Director of Hindustan Syringes and Medical Devices Limited. Welcome, sir. Next, I welcome Dr. Preetpal Thakur, who is the co-founder of Glamyo Health. Welcome. I welcome Dr. Parag Rindani, who is the Chief Executive Officer at Wockhardt Hospitals. Welcome. I also welcome Dr. Aloke Mullick, who is the Group CEO of Omni Hospitals. Welcome. I also welcome Ms. Neha Lal, who is Senior GM of Operations and HR at GCS Medical College, Hospital and Research Center. Welcome. We also have Dr. Neha Sadotra with us today, who is the chairperson of MBA in Healthcare Management at NMIMS. She would be joining us at the end of the panel discussion. So this panel discussion would be led by Ms. Neha Lal. So now I hand it over to her.
Very good afternoon, one and all. I really thank the platform called Voice of Healthcare and Pinky for specially inviting me and giving this responsibility to moderate this valuable session for all of you. And I really feel privileged to be amongst best and distinguished speakers of the healthcare industry. Let's begin this session. I think I would start with one more quote that knowledge is being bought. Being aware about what you can do, but then wisdom is knowing when not to do. So that is what about the leadership. And then leaders today are the human capital of any organization who faces the new challenges due to the speed of technological, social, economical changes which is happening around. And do really these challenges call for a new breed of leaders, and how this entire leadership context is going to shape up in healthcare industry? Let us hear more about that. So in world of all these disruptive digital business model, flattered organization, and ongoing shift on the team-based, work practices, organization actually are, facing a lot of challenges with the leaders, and that they expect the leaders to step up and show the way forward. CEOs across are being pressurized to take the position on the social issues. The C executives are being asked to work more collaboratively with the functions teams and line leaders, and they must learn how to operate in the networks of teams. So these are the recent challenges, and I would say the recent trend as far as leaderships are concerned in healthcare space. Moving more on this, I would just like each of the panelists just to start the discussion with the opening remarks on the knowledge leadership. That is what we topic have. So I'll start with Dr. Parag Rindani. Sir, my request to you to give the opening remarks to the audience, and then we can move on to question answers. You're mute. You'll have to unmute, Dr. Parag.
I have muted. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Okay. Fundamentally, am I audible, Neha?
Yes, you are.
Okay. I think at the very outset, knowledge leadership is growing up the ladder, because what I've realized is that many people once complete their MBAs, their MHAs, everybody wants to become a CEO like overnight. I think unless you play the slog overs, not everybody can start becoming, in my era, Sunil Gavaskar, or in today's era, Kohli.
Okay.
I think it's very important. Even the startups which are coming up today, all of them have a lot of knowledge research done before they get into. So, if as a starting remark, I'd just like to say that it's a very pertinent topic. If you don't have knowledge of the workings of a hospital, it's very difficult to get into consulting or become a CEO. So I think on that note, I'll pass over to Neha back again.
Yes, thank you so much. Very rightly he did the comment, because a lot of the students who are there coming out of that graduation, they actually this is a very typical question, and I would say the ambiguity what they are facing in their mind. Handing over to Mr. Rajiv Nath. Sir, your comments, please.
Thank you, Ms. Neha. Thank you, VOH, for this opportunity. Appreciate VOH organizing such kind of regular webinars and discussions online and offline. Healthcare delivery, of course, is very important, and India is going up the graph over the last 10 years, especially since private healthcare has come into the forefront. But COVID has definitely shown that the role of public healthcare cannot be minimized, it cannot be wished away. Public healthcare has played a very stellar role, especially during COVID times. And I really applaud the efforts done by the healthcare community, who's part of the public healthcare forum, to add strengths to what the private healthcare was, of course, already trying to deliver. On our part, the medical device industry is a support industry which supports the healthcare delivery. Healthcare
Yeah.
delivery cannot really be done unless the tools are available, whether any kind of medical devices. Medical devices can be consumables or disposables, or electronics or equipments or implants or instrumentation or IVD diagnostics. And for all of this, at Indian level, even though historically we've been very much import dependent, the 90% import dependency is now inching downwards to below 80%. And hopefully, in the next few years, with the government and the industry working in tandem, we can hopefully bring it down to by another 30% dependency. So the manufacturers themselves are always taking inputs as feedback from the healthcare community into making more innovative products, better products, more suited for the Indian environment or the local issues over here. And this is something where we need to have a collaborative environment.
Yeah.
This is where the leadership question comes in over here, or the education part of it comes, because the role of the academia, the students, the developers, the medical community, and the engineers, along with the industry who has to commercialize the product, need to work in tandem. I look forward
Sure.
to discussions at the show going on.
Thank you very much, sir, for your so insightful thoughts and thought-provoking. I would say the collaborative approach between the industries, of course, in the healthcare industry, will make the show better. I request now Mr. Rupak Bora. Mr. Rupak from AMRI, sir. Yes, your comments, please, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. We is a first year topic of the discussion. I think that the leadership is as Parag has mentioned that we need to give some advice for this or possible for anyone. Let's say example, the education that can make you the knowledge of let's say one part of it. So if you say that maybe 10% of the journey or but that say platform is your base. But that platform actually that you have to take that platform, you have to explore that platform the better way, and you have to implement in your day-to-day your working schedule, and that will lead you to become a leader. So leadership is a journey. You must acquire that first the education which you are acquiring, but you have to really you have to work very hard and to become a good leader. Good leader means many ways. There is a lot of components are involved in this. Your life to make one any of your electronic items, it needs a lot of spares actually. So for becoming a good leader, it means a lot of spares. One part that you are making maybe that's the education or the knowledge, but there are so many other things over the time you have to learn, you have to understand, you have to implement, you have to monitor to become a great leader. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I picked up two words. You have actually narrated the all attributes about the sound and good leaders. And I hope that, the future discussions will have lot many elaboration of that for our audience to learn and take on. I'll hand over to Dr. Aloke, sir, please. Sir, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Sorry, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So when I was working with the IT industry, I used to always tell them we have a lot of managers but very few leaders, and the same holds true for the healthcare industry as well. Leadership is very difficult to find. I mean, we get a lot of managers, some of them good, some of them not so good, but leaders who can see through, who can strategize, who can understand what really is the problem ailing the industry today, what are the solutions, who can seek solutions, right, who can be data driven, you know. Now everybody keeps on, oh, I need a good marketing team, I need good business development, how many patients did you get, right? Nobody I've seen ever, I've not yet to see a single leader who focuses on patient retention. Most leaders don't even know their retention scores. Okay, in January I had say 1,500 new patients registered. Over the next 4 months, how many of them kept coming back? How many of them kept coming back? It will be very instructive to have this data to understand what is the percentage of patients you are able to retain. Various studies have shown that even if your retention goes up by 5%, your revenue goes up by 10%. These are patients who did all the trouble of coming to you, and you, because you could not offer them delight, you could not offer them the services they were seeking, they never came back to you. We have leaders who don't even understand what does a patient really want. He wants clean toilets, he wants clean sheets, he wants decent food, he wants polite staff. Nobody focuses on that, and you keep on shoveling yourself with all kinds of extraneous things like how much did my insurance business do, how much did my this business do. It's really troublesome. Most we fail to understand that private sector healthcare inflation is 15% for the last 2 decades. A baseline mobile 15 years back used to cost 25,000 rupees. Today's cost probably 50,000, 60,000 rupees. A hernia surgery 15 years ago used to cost 20,000. Today it costs 1,50,000.
Yeah.
It's crazy. The whole industry is so very inefficient. We have so-called leaders who do not understand finance, who can't read a balance sheet, who have no idea about benchmark costs, right? We really have to I have interviewed people from premium institutes in India. They have just zero idea about healthcare finance, zero idea. It's the availability of optimum leadership material is very poor. It's a fact.
Right. I think 3 important points you just narrated about the patient focus, and I would say there are a lot of hidden opportunities within the system, within your organization, and I think we are not given a potential, I would say, the focus as to what our customer wants exactly. So you have given example, of course, and with a highlight on learning the healthcare finances as well as costing part. So very important and significant issues which you have just narrated, sir. Thank you so very much for it. I'll now move on to Dr. Preet, who is an entrepreneur. I think Glamyo is a online platform. I would really suggest and request you that you just give a kind of a highlight on what you are and what we are offering and what is this new platform. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Neha, and good evening to all the senior colleagues from the industry. Right. So I feel honored to sharing sort of a platform with you. The point that I would start with is that in last couple of years, world has changed, but healthcare has changed in a far greater proportion, right? First of all, sensitivity towards healthcare has increased even in folks who are 30 years old. Now they know that even 30-year person needs to take his health seriously. Equally, digital adoption in healthcare has sort of accelerated by leaps and bounds, and we've leapfrog by at least 10 years in digital adoption, right? So essentially, the startup that I represent, and I'm one of the co-founders of Glamyo Health, we are essentially building a platform for the pain points that were highlighted by some of the senior gentlemen on the platform. One, which Dr. Aloke Mullick just referred as to what a patient actually is wanting. All right. So essentially, Glamyo Health is an platform which is focusing on elective procedures, which is focusing on surgeries which do not have any life criticality attached to it, and we are helping the hospitals in one of their pain points, which is low capacity utilization in some of their hospitals for chain hospitals, and the single unit sort of operators. If they are suffering from low capacity utilization, we help them in sort of improving or optimizing the capacity utilization, taking into account the pain points that the patient is facing, right from the discharge, right from the admission, discharge, admission paperwork, discharge paperwork, insurance related queries, insurance related paperwork, zero cost financing, and so on and so forth, right? I mean, so the touch points with the healthcare delivery sort of services where the patient actually faces friction is where players like us come into play, complementing the core offering of the hospitals with whom we are partners.
Yes. Thank you for letting us know that what the Glamyo Health, I would say, is all about, and taking a new shape wherein there is a gap between the patients. I would say for the elective surgery, there is a different market, and bridging that gap with the chain of hospitals. So very nice initiative. I must congratulate you. Thank you for being a part of this panel, and I'm sure that our all participants would love to hear more on knowledge leadership. Let's move on our session very quickly. We are running a little bit of time too. So again, I will start with Dr. Rindani. Good afternoon again.
Good afternoon.
So, of course, I mean, there have been a lot of panel discussion, a lot of deliberation happened as to COVID-19. And still, I think Maharashtra is, rising with the numbers. So, again, we are talking COVID today, that reflecting our country situation with regard to the COVID and experience. What are the major leadership challenges? I would say because the COVID is going to have to stay with us and leadership has to be evolved within that. So, what are your takes as to what healthcare leaders should keep in the mind while battling COVID? I mean, from the industry perspective. You'll have to unmute, Dr. Parag.
Okay. One of the major things that I think Maharashtra faced, and we were one of the first hospitals where we got hit by COVID. Thankfully, we didn't have any mortalities, but we were badly marauded by the press. I think one of the things that healthcare leaders will have to understand is that today it's COVID-19, tomorrow it may be COVID-23. We really don't know because the virus is mutating. And therefore, architects will have to have knowledge leadership on how to constantly innovate low-cost models with respect to adequate isolation precautions in futuristic hospitals. I think as we are concerned, people who are working in current hospitals, which have very limited isolation facilities, we'll have to understand how to remodel our hospitals to constantly have COVID as well as non-COVID work. Because I think as Dr. Aloke rightly pointed out, most people don't understand cost. Most people don't understand the importance of when we had gone for a panel discussion to a leading institution teaching healthcare management, the full form of EBITDA was something that emerging postgraduates did not know. So till you don't understand your cost, you're not going to be able to see what is the kind of COVID, non-COVID mix that you're looking for. If you don't understand that, and if you don't know revenue per occupied bed, you are then not going to be able to drive appropriate occupancies. And today the government is all set to slash rates. As you know, the government of Maharashtra put up a rate of 4,000 rupees for ward and 7,500 rupees for ICU, which is absolutely untenable. So how did one manage? One managed with same ratios. Remember, we at Wockhardt, we are a NABH and Joint Commission internationally accredited facility. We actually underwent our Joint Commission survey in the middle of the COVID pandemic. I think what's very important is one, being on the ground. as they say in Japanese, going to Gemba. You need to understand what's your grassroots reality. You need to know how you can organize your lifts, your beds, your ICUs appropriately, to a very, very close connection with your leadership team. You need to respect your medical head, your nursing head, your admin head, and they need to be constantly on their toes. Your supply chain becomes a very integral part in all of this. Three, and I think very, very important, is compassion towards your patient and building that trust equation with your staff. At our hospital group, we probably handle at this hospital alone where I work, we handle around 6,000 patients, and it's not been easy. Very important to constantly mobilize your team to have passion so that they remain passionate. And I think what is most visible, leaders should be visible on the ground. Most leaders today get into their offices and don't show their faces. So I think if you're talking about knowledge leadership, understanding how this particular virus mutated helped, understanding the government norms helped, a very close collaboration between public and private hospitals was seen in this duration. Maharashtra came up reasonably well also because the government was very keenly listening to the private players, and the private players were interacting well with the government. So I think when you talk about knowledge leadership, it's very important to keep your ear to the ground. You will listen to the leaders across the world, listen to the leaders from Delhi, but most importantly, stay in touch with the municipal authorities, stay in touch with your microbiology professors of medical colleges, because they are the ones who drive most of this. It's never easy to handle change. I think all MBAs will learn all of this, but when change is thrust upon you, it is ever so difficult. Most important is don't give up. That is the most important characteristic that a leader must exhibit in these particular trying times. Okay, you have enough questions to ask.
Thank you. I think very nicely, explained the whole challenges of the COVID and how did you and others have managed in various types of hospital, irrespective of challenges coming from the government, corporation, patients, and other agencies. I'll hand over to Mr. Rajiv Nath. I think from the Hindustan series. Let us connect this topic of COVID and what's your experience in leading that stopgap arrangement when its supply chain is concerned and the products are concerned, I would say.
Yes, so as a leader, I think it's important to smell a problem in advance and prepare for it. And in the case of COVID, as soon as the issue started in December, January, by January end, February, we were sending off alarm bells to the government that we expect a crisis of medical devices to come around, shortages to come around, because our ear was to the ground. And we were seeing that what was being imported was being re-exported. So distributors close to us were informing us that masks, PPE, kits, and thermometers are currently being re-exported, and stocks are short, and they're going back to China. China is the exporter, and if things go back to China, if COVID is going to hit India, what will happen to India? A plane was being flown from India with medical supplies in February beginning with the Prime Minister's fund to support China and this activity. We put the alarm bells to the government that it's nice to be generous, fine, but what are we doing for manufacturing and building capacity and putting specifications and helping manufacturing in India to take off, whether for ventilators or for all these things? And I'm telling you that the kind of coordination and the teamwork which we saw in March, April, and May between the manufacturers, not only from medical device industry, but people who were manufacturers per se in other industries, but wanted to come forward to medical device industry and support manufacturing, whether from the automobile industry, garment, textile export industry. All these people stepped forward, and along with the government, there was excellent teamwork which I have never seen in my lifetime. From 7 o'clock in the morning till midnight, there was strong leadership by the cabinet secretary himself. There was strong leadership to make empowered committee chairman, and each empowered committee at the central government was being proactive in getting communication and in 24 hours to 48 hours addressing our issues. Whether we needed employees from the factory, whether we needed components and raw materials from the factories, so those component and raw material suppliers, factories had to run also. We need transportation to support us. When the goods are made, they have to be shipped out, so our distributors have to be allowed to have their distribution open, transport organizations to be allowed to be open. This kind of leadership and proactive communication and coordination was the key thing. And I think this was a very interesting experience which we faced in crisis management going forward. And second time was again during the second wave, also during COVID time, whether it was for oxygen or oxygen therapy equipments. The kind of quick communication and the kind of relationship building and network building which had been done in wave one helped us also to fight out wave two. And we could know which people and which suppliers to bank upon, which airlines to bank upon. So SpiceJet and Air India for flying in components, flying in special flights for components, so the product could be made and could be shipped out to needy consumers and needy hospitals was taken care of. All this requires leadership, all this requires coordination, all this requires communication. So
Right.
I think these were the three important elements that were, I would think, required over there in terms of leadership and in terms of teamwork. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so very much for your own experiences, as well as sharing the most important attributes as to how the knowledge leadership should be in the cases of crisis. We have other things which we have noticed here. I mean, all the research generally shows that organization expect new leadership capacity. They are still largely promoting the existing one, that is a traditional model within the system and the mindset, when they should be developing the skills and competencies, and they have other leaders and effectively navigate the greater opportunity as well as challenges. I'll request Rupak ji to answer this as to how the topic being refreshing the new leaders from within. How does it happen, and what are the gaps, and how the organization should behave?
If we really talk about that, the leadership as well mentioned. So one of the major important, I just like to take some specific of the COVID situation as well. The other
Sir, if you're not audible clearly, can you just set up your audio, please?
Is it clear now? Is it audible?
Still clear. Yeah, much better.
So I would like to say because of this the public situation, so that students will be able to understand that when we face this kind of a public situation, actually, the major goal of a leader, what we should understand, that's the strategic goal. What strategy they will take? What strategy they will follow? Because everybody is looking after these leaders, and look forward leaders actually the decision making process. Actually. So now, whenever we had faced this kind of a catastrophe, a natural one, where we do not have any control, it is an unprecedented situation that we had faced. The one of the major important tasks for a leader was how to survive. Now, the students are studying a lot of strategies, different kind of strategies. Usually they learn about these 4 different major kind of strategies they learn in the B school. But there is a 5th strategy which and one leader must know the part, that is a survival strategy. When there is any situation, when you do not have any control, then what kind of decision you will take, but that's a very crisis management you can talk about, but the strategy we are talking about. So that was a major kind of a situation happen, and a leader's role actually could identify that how fast, how effective way one could manage the institute, one could manage the organization, both in terms of the patient and the finance part as well. As many people are talking about that, the student doesn't have much of idea about the finance. That is one of the most important attribute one leader must have. Now, during this kind of a strategic situation, how I can manage because as you are mentioning, the supply chain, there is a patient, there is no system of managing the patient, because there is no SOP, because it's out of the syllabus. So nobody is having any idea about this one. But considering that part, that you will have to manage the patients, and you will have to manage the administration. There is a lot of government policies, government decisions making, day-to-day decisions. There is a change of decisions, and you will have to manage your revenue as well. How? Because it's very, very important, and that which we had faced. So that is one part. The other part, I think, it comes through this word as a leader. That's the decision-making process. That's a very fast decision-making. That's one of the most important attributes of the leader. And there is the other one also we can talk about. That is how you will be able to handle your all the staffs, the doctors, and because healthcare is a very complex process. There are many kind of the slabs, because it's not that like any other company that is one is the administration and one is a worker. That's all finished. But here is actually you are handling this, right from the housekeeping staffs to a very senior consultant. So managing all, I mean, that's a major kind of a this attribute for the leader. So in my opinion, this is a process, as I told earlier as well, that one has to understand the two P must be very important. One, that you must have a patience and you must have the passion as well. With these two things there in a person, but definitely one will become a good leader in future.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think COVID as a whole has provided a lot of opportunities to find the hidden talent. I would say the hidden leadership within the system, because there was a lot of taking charge of rapid changes and, engaging the external and internal stakeholders in the COVID itself. So I think what Dr. Rindani just mentioned about, being on the ground and understanding the situation, talking to the team, understanding them, having them motivated always, whether it's your medical team, nursing team, or ground level staff, even admin team. So I think that is very crucial part, and that is how I think the leaders from the within the organizations can be created, and I would say can be developed. Now the discussion going to Dr. Aloke. Sir, what of buzz is around in the healthcare, and the industry has actually changed then versus now. If I see the decade ago, the industry was something different. And still, with the use of technology, I think a lot of digitalization is happening. Even the also launching digital mission, that is ABDM Yojana, and I think the whole nation is moving towards EMR and EHR and whatnot. Everything is going digitalized. What are your views for our students and participants as to that? What is the major gap if we compare the decade ago then and now, and what are your quick advices for the aspirants?
See, nothing major is happening, unfortunately. I was in the EHR industry. I was a vendor myself for 5 years, and I was probably one of the senior most doctors doing IT full time at that time in the whole wide world. And we set up India's first EHR company. We set up India's first, or probably the second HIMSS level 6 implementation. But those are very, very rare stories in India. The Indian government has created EHR quality document, which is in version 2, probably version 3 is coming out. But see, unless there is a carrot and stick from the government, hospitals traditionally will never invest. Why do you think hospitals are running for NABH? Not that probably only 5% hospitals are really interested in quality. Most of them are doing it just because it gives them extra billing, right? Otherwise, today you remove that carrot, nobody's going to run after NABH. So similar carrot has never been, I personally, I have friends in Delhi and they say, hey, next year ho jayega. But it has never come. I don't know for what reason. Because I hope somebody from the government is listening. Unless you do this, you cannot digitalize healthcare. We have lots of very good products in India. Those products, once they start getting adopted in large numbers, the prices will also fall. We have some very good mobile-based EMRs. Earlier, the big bugbear of EMR used to be, the doctors don't want to get trained on it. They are not computer savvy. But everybody is smartphone savvy. Everybody has got hundreds of applications on their smartphones. You can run one application, you can easily run another application. Some wonderful mobile-first EMRs and EHRs have come up in India, right? And but where is the incentive for a hospital to adopt them?
Yeah.
Hospitals, as far as healthcare IT is concerned, are is an immature industry in India. A mature industry like manufacturing, like retail, they would spend anywhere between 3 to 4% of the revenue on their IT. Hospitals would normally spend about 0.5%. It doesn't go up, and it will not go up till such time the government mandates it. Very simple. Nobody is going to do this. Everybody, we are always the promoters. Most of the promoters are now, whether you like it or not, are finance companies, are funds. They will fight for every 0.5% of EBITDA. They will not do this investment unless there is a mandate. So it's all very nice to talk about healthcare IT, about AI. What will you do AI on? Where is the data set? Where is the data set on which you will run AI? India can become a huge healthcare AI pioneer provided we create enough data sets. Once enough data sets are created through EHRs, which have been mandated by the government and which have been purchased by the hospital, one because it is mandated, then you have this beautiful new emerging industry where okay, I had this condition, and this condition, this is the range of interventions which were done, and these were the range of outcomes. Any half decent AI program will then tell you, okay, which was the best intervention. You will start getting newer approaches to therapies once we do all of this, but it's not there. The biggest implementation of EHR is in a private healthcare hospital in US. By the way, US were also not there. US mein EHR implementation was about 5%. And when the government started mandating and doing the carrot and stick policy, over 10 years, this 5% became 70%. And one of the largest implementations of EHR happened in the private hospital group, and they have the largest amount of AI-driven changes in intervention. Actually, they changed their treatment policies based on the AI-driven results that they were getting. So much so that in a US Senate hearing, this hospital group CEO was called by the Senate committee chairman that how come your hospital has the lowest morbidity rates in most lowest mortality and morbidity rates in most of the quality parameters. Why can't the other American hospitals do this? When can you? He said, we can't do this because we spent a lot of money. I don't expect many hospitals to spend a lot of money on EHR systems. But somebody, I'll tell you who will help you. He actually told this to us in a face-to-face meeting in Delhi. He said, somebody from India will help you. He said, how? He said, India has a lot of IT talent. India has a lot of hospital management talent and business talent. They will ultimately figure out a way to treat millions of Indians at the lowest possible rate with the best possible quality. When they figure it out, that knowledge will come back to us. But it's not happening. Government is not doing its bit. I have said this in so many forums.
Okay. Right. Yes, I think for throwing light on what are the gaps between the industry as well as the government and what kind of mandate we need as a pushing factor to move ahead as far as digital technology and adoption of digital platform and EMR is concerned. I hope that with this ABDM mission, I think a lot of processes and transactions are being happen now online or on the digital platform as far as PMJY scheme is concerned. I'm sure that in this particular decade we are going to have a lot of changes to be adopted in the industry. But yes, there should be a budget. There has to be a financial set aside for the investment which actually takes place as and when this technology is concerned in hospitals. Moving to Dr. Preet on the similar line, as you are talking on technology platform, what were your exactly challenges and how do you see that your patients, I would say your customers, are coping up with that expenditure, and how does this model work?
Right. Now, Dr. Alok highlighted some of the points which are probably ailing the Indian healthcare industry, and more so on the sort of an EMR, EHR front, and the initiatives that the government is taking or not taking. Right now, some of the points I try and balance that out by sort of highlighting some of the points which the ecosystem has taken as a whole, government being one of the stakeholders of that ecosystem, right? So the point that you alluded to, Neha, was the point on the Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission initiative, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, India is a big country with people from various educational strata, with people from various religious sort of a background. So managing a sort of a mission of that gargantuan proportions will obviously take time, right? So there is no magic band which can solve that problem in one day, or in a couple of months, or in a couple of quarters for that matter, right? But the steps are being taken, and some of the steps are in the right direction. Obviously, can the speed be faster? Yes, the answer to that is an obvious yes. Now, coming to your point as to what how exactly are we utilizing technology in sort of bringing efficiencies in the whole ecosystem right now. I'll take one use case, and I'll use that use case to to belabor a point that most of the items in Indian healthcare services delivery, which were hitherto known as pain points, are actually solved by not any rocket science kind of an innovation. They are just sort of a simple solution. For example, now we deal in elective procedures, right? 95 to 98% of elective procedures, and most of the panelists are doctors, would agree with me, would have an uneventful 24-hour stay in the hospital, right? And most of the sort of senior colleagues from the industry on the panel would also agree that discharge summary is one of the pain points which leads to friction for the patient in many cases, right? In most of the cases, at the time of discharge, the doctor is nowhere to be found, or the doctor is busy in some OT, or the doctor is doing some other thing, and hence the patient has to suffer. On an average, our research, however the sample size was roughly 300, 400, and based out of Delhi, suggested that on an average the patient has to wait 3 hours longer than what he should have to wait, right? Now, in our sort of procedures, what we've done is on the day of the surgery itself, which is discharge minus 1 day, our doctor will make the discharge summary, because 95 to 98% of the cases there is going to be an uneventful stay, and that discharge summary will be lying with the sort of a nurse, right? At the time of discharge, in 98% of the cases where there was an uneventful stay, our team will then sort of pass that discharge summary on to the patient, right? Now, this is, in this case, we've not done any AI, ML, or any of that fancy term. We've just plugged the horse in front of the cart where it actually should have been from the in the first place, right? Now, this is very, very simple sort of a solution, right? It's just that nobody has bothered to think about solving the problems in this kind of manner. So now 98% of our cases will have a discharge summary which is on time, right? So have we solved the problem 100%? The answer to that is no, right? But have we reduced the magnitude of the problem? The answer to that is yes, right? Now, there are so many such sort of a process engineering opportunities available in the hospital sort of a workflow, which will help the patient. The only sort of a way, so for us right now, necessity is the mother of invention. We do not own any asset, right? So our an asset is an important point for the patient to gain trust, right? So when a patient sees a big building of an AMRI hospital or a Wockhardt hospital, that immediately right off the bat gives him some trust, right? That अंदर कुछ अच्छा ही हो रहा होगा, right? Compare that with a nursing home, right? Now, to build this trust in the absence of asset, we needed to solve for real pain points that the patient was facing, right? And hence, keeping the patient in center, we were sort of forced to come up with these kind of solutions, right? Which, if not delight the patient, help his friction reduction at each touch point.
Yeah. Right. Thank you for sharing insight on as to actually the I would say the practical issues of all the hospitals. Every hospital do faces a lot of issues, and there are, as you mentioned, a lot of touch points, and that are being measured, and a lot of studies and research is going on. Foremost is a discharge process, and that is what the issue is, and everyone is look around about some solution which helps them to get the patient out from the hospital. And I would, my own comments on the discharge is that issues are not with the processes, issues are lying with the stakeholders, and I think we must address until and unless the processes are not going to be improved. That is my own perception. Moving forward, we have only 10 minutes to go, so I would like to ask the same questions to all the panelists here. Said that if you wanted to advise someone moving into the leadership role in healthcare industry tomorrow, and who is taking more interest in taking up all these challenges what you have just mentioned, so what are the three most important attributes as a leader you would like to see and you would like them to learn? So I'll start with Dr. Rindani. Three attributes, the three most attributes, however you have mentioned many, but then the ones which are significant ones.
Okay, I think attribute number one is a deep understanding of process, because when you don't understand process, you can't improve process. Second and most important thing is what I understand is passion towards your job. You need to really be passionate to become a healthcare leader. You can become a great manager, but you can never transform yourself into a leader till you don't get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and see if there's a problem. People should be comfortable to awaken you, knowing that your passion far supersedes your need for some comfort here or there. And I think a lot of my co-panelists have stressed that. I think Dr. Mullick said that. Others also said that. I think knowledge leadership in terms of finance. I think this is something I have studied from Narsi Monji Institute of Management Studies. I've done my MBA Finance from there. And believe you me, this university has some of the best teachers in finance that you can think of in the city of Mumbai at least. And I think understanding finance, understanding a P&L, understanding your cost structure, this should be the third most important attribute, because everything else you learn. You should learn what a CSST cycle looks like. You should learn what your linen cycle looks like. You should know how patients are discharged and admitted. You must understand HIS. But at the core of all of this, at the leadership level, you're going to be judged on what EBITDA you're going to be able to produce, how you're able to reduce your COGS, how you're able to reduce your doctor payout, how you're going to reduce inventory costs. And therefore, I think understanding of P&L, this is the third, one of the multiple attributes which my colleagues will also contribute to. But this is the third according to me.
Thank you, Dr. Parag. Sir, Dr. Aloke.
Yeah, that's my favorite topic. In all the hospitals, including the current one, I run a junior leadership training program. We identify. We have a systemized process of identifying future leaders, and those future leaders, of course, we don't have the kind of budgets that a major hospital chain can have, and to send these people for training to a premium institutes, but we run our own internal version and we run it very successfully. So most of the training is centered around training them in hospital finance, training them in hospital strategy. Lots of time they don't understand strategy. Leaders are of two kinds. I mean, we must, as leaders ourselves, we must understand that there are three kinds of leaders. You have a junior leader, you have a middle leader, you have a senior leader. Now, a junior leader is a supervisor kind of person who is basically, his job is to ensure that actionables are done. He is just supervising actions. A middle leader is a person who is maybe a senior manager or something. he is the person who, apart from supervising actions, he is also doing tactical planning. Okay, let me do how do I do my roster for the next 1 week? How do I do this? He short-term planning. And a senior leader should have the ability to do strategic planning. I have to set up this department over the 6 months. I have to improve the revenue of this department over the next 3 months. There's a lot of strategic planning which goes into that. As was reiterated by the earlier speaker, a leader also must know what's happening in a hospital. When I am basically a surgeon, that too from the army, 22 years a surgeon, and when in my first leadership position, I suddenly realized lots of areas in the army I was not, in the hospitals I had very sketchy information. I actually sat with my dialysis technician. I actually sat with my nuclear medicine technician. I learned their skills, learned their trade craft. Okay, you sit with your technicians, you learn everything. I sat with my billing guys, I sat with my CFO, I sat any area of the hospital which sounded alien to me, I sat with them. I spent probably 3-4 years just doing this, just soaking it in, right? You have to understand each and every facet. You should know how, for example, how your nursing head does flexible nursing deployment. You should know what is flexible deployment, you know. So every part of it you should know. Then only people will respect you. As a leader, you will be respected only by your knowledge base, by your ability to train others with the same knowledge, right?
Very right. Thank you so very much. Thank you, sir. Moving to Rupak ji, Mr. Rupak ji. So your advice.
Yeah, can you hear me now? So, so for this, your leadership role is concerned. What are the attributes? I think I had mentioned it is little earlier. But first of all, I mean, it's my experience. The way we used to handle the patients, manage the hospitals before, and today that's absolutely is a different kind of a ball game. Now, if we are considering that one leader should be in the 21st century, the new modern hospitals management, one should take care as a leader. So the first thing that one needs to understand the patient's journey, because they are the most prime kind of a customer for us. The patient's journey, each and every step of the patient journey, one has to understand. Because until and unless we don't understand the patient, we'll not be able to deliver the best care to the patient. Once we get best care to the patient, and then next is coming up the finance part. But the finance which we are talking about is one of the most important attribute that what we have seen, that many of the B schools, they are not much of serious about giving this your training for this your finance. But what we are facing today, because you see the private healthcare when we are talking about, almost 60-65% of the bed is controlled by the private healthcare, and most of the time what we have seen, that is though the penetration of the insurance is very less, so out of pocket expenses is very high. So we need to understand the patient when we need to understand the finance, but on the basis of the patient. So that, as someone mentioning about the cost control, one has to understand with this my limited capacity, how I can best deliver the medical care with considering my cost part. So reducing cost in each and every step, that is one of the most important part that we need to understand. But again, I will say that there are innumerable number of attributes is required for a healthcare management students right now. But the major part that he must have your understanding of the patient. They should know the patient. That's a passion should be there. That I'm not like a other leader. I'm not working as a CEO of a multinational company or an FMCG or a other company. I'm working in a healthcare, and the patient is my the major concern. We should give the best care at an affordable cost. That is the major part I think one has to understand. Thank you.
Mr. Rajiv, your take.
time is limited, so I'll just praise like bullet points. So I take leadership as in two sectors. One is in terms of process, and one is in terms of personal attributes.
Yeah.
So in terms of process, I would say a leader or the head of the organization needs to provide the vision and the strategy. The leader also needs to provide the objectives, whether they are financial objectives, quality objectives, customer satisfaction objectives, or customer retention or market share objectives. And number three, as part of the process, he has to do monitoring and follow up to achieve success in these objectives and team along with it. Now, these are the processes, I would say, as far as the leadership goes. Which are the personal attributes, the three key important things so that he becomes an effective leader? Number one, he must have empathy and he must listen. Number two, he must be a very good coordinator. And number three, he must be having very clear communication and direction. That clarity of communication and direction to his team members will help them to feel, number one, empowered, but to feel trusted. Unless they feel empowered and trusted, they will not be able to execute and act in his absence. So they are the ambassadors in his absence. I cannot be everywhere. My salesperson who is visiting the hospital is the ambassador of the company. So when he is the head of the hospital or the purchase department, they will derive an understanding of the company or of the product line by his behavior, his presentation, his demeanor, everything. So he has to be the MD or the representing the MD of the company over there.
Right.
How he puts himself across, how he communicates across as an empowered employee is very important in terms of customer satisfaction and retaining the customers over there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Such as soft skills are very, very important, as you mentioned about the empathy, and as well as the communication and the organizational objectives. One final take on from Dr. Preet.
Yeah, hi. In the interest of time, very brief. I think so. We are actually COVID babies, and we've seen digital adoption sort of impacting the healthcare. So the leaders cannot be devoid of this fundamental change which is happening in the industry. So a leader in today's context needs to understand the role and the increasing role that digital is going to play in the healthcare services delivery and many other facets of healthcare in India. Second point that I agree with Rajiv is empathy. Third point, which we follow very diligently in our organization, is solving for real patient pain point, right? So keeping the patient at the center of all your offerings will generally hold you in good stead, right? So that message has to come from the leadership, because down in the trenches, people are actually fighting different kinds of battles. So they may at some point in time be sort of sacrificing empathy, right? So that message has to be driven down from the leadership to the people who are interacting with the patients day in, day out.
Right. So I really thank each of you for giving your time here and talking more on healthcare challenges as an industry challenges and how the whole ecosystem is functioning and what are the newer challenges going to come for the future healthcare leaders. Just to sum up this session, the attributes which are there for the leaders making are deep deep knowledge about all the processes, your hospital processes, very important, the healthcare finance and costing part of it, the strategic planning. All the leaders are required to do the strategic planning in order to lift up the organization and overall productivity. And of course, the understanding and more penetration onto your customers, and that is your patient base and patients and visitors and their footfalls, and having the same patients into that. So much of hidden opportunities are there, and how to adopt and how to make them profitable. And last one most important thing is that healthcare leaders are to be empowered with the processes, and a lot of knowledge is going into it. So I think these are the major takeaways from our all panelists. And now I would just end up the session with handing over to VOH. So that's done. Thank you so very much for coping with me with my all questions and answers. Thank you so very much with all the panelists. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Neha Lal, for so expertly leading the session.
Thank you very much.
Now I invite Dr. Neha Sadhotra, who is the chairperson of MBA in Healthcare Management at NMIMS, to please share more about the course.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all the panelists for setting the expectations right with the young executives joining healthcare organizations. We understand that healthcare industry has now expanded well beyond the realm of hospitals. The aggregate not just limits to hospitals, companies, or the medical device companies or diagnostic companies. It also extends to telemedicine, digital health robotics, health insurance, and medical tourism. And this vast expansion of the sector has created a lot of opportunities for young minds in the industry. And as our esteemed panelists have also reinforced that leadership is a difficult find and the availability of optimum leadership material is crucial at the present hour. So many B schools, they are contributing to this ecosystem by providing future ready leaders, equipping them with industry-led practices and education. On similar lines, we at NMIMS have launched MBA in Healthcare Management program at our Mumbai campus from this academic year. This is a multidisciplinary professional program focused at preparing future healthcare executives for management and leadership roles and dedicated to building and managing healthcare systems and organizations. This program seeks a deep immersion of the healthcare sector with a global focus, identifying new opportunities and challenges in the sector, in the industry. Our curriculum provides solid principles of healthcare entrepreneurship and a framework of creating and managing skills and knowledge to deal with digital disruption in the industry. Also, we would especially focus on healthcare finance, cost, quality, and access issues. The two-year program with the one trimester of internship with healthcare organization, it aims to provide some or improve the quality and cost effectiveness of the and integration of the healthcare organizations and the healthcare systems. We also want to equip the and train the participants with strategic problem solving and innovation principles. And with this, we have thought of this industry internship, and we focus on developing business acumen, leadership potential, as well as analytical, technical, and management skills in the young minds. And we look forward to the support of our industry experts in this journey of preparing us for the future ready healthcare system in India. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Neha. Thank you for sharing all the information. I hope it is valuable for all the young and aspiring entrepreneurs in healthcare sector. I would like to thank from the bottom of my heart to all our guest panelists for taking out time for us and for joining this session, for sharing their knowledge, for empowering healthcare leadership. I would also like to thank Narsi Munji Institute of Management Studies for getting in association with Voice of Healthcare for this session. I would also like to thank all our viewers for staying with us to the very end. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great day. Thank you.